Mackenzie Johnston with Tri-State Livestock News, bringing you discussions concerning fair cattle markets. Today we have the opportunity to chat with Keith Eichler of Aberdeen, South Dakota. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your involvement within the cattle industry?
What I've done over the years is we started out on the farm in our younger years, and we ran 600 cows and had a 1,000-head feedlot. And from there, we advanced. My dad passed away when I was a senior in high school, and we took over and hit a tough time in 75 and 76, 1975, 76, and it was kind of tough to make some major adjustments. And from there, I was a cow calf operator, and I worked for an association, cattle association, for a while there at the same time to kind of get started and get going. And then we got into the cow calf business pretty heavy, and also decided to get into the cattle buying business as well, and that to subsidize it. And since then, I've gotten out of the cow calf business and fed a few cattle too, but for the most part now I'm doing mostly buying and selling of cattle. We're brokering cattle, and we do it in about a 6-state area here.
So what do you feel are the major issues standing in the way of fair cattle markets today?
Mainly it's the packers, the manipulation of the cash trade and the futures, manipulation of the futures even, if they just don't go in and buy, the market goes down, and that's one way. But there's other deals, situations that are happening there too. But mainly the formula cattle we definitely need that taken care of. They're working on that right now, but I'm hoping that can be part of the solution.
So what do you think is a solution to handle these formula cattle? Do you think the 5014 bill proposed by Grassley would take care of it?
Absolutely, yes. That is it. So many people think it's too harsh, but I don't think people realize that, right now it's up against 30% at some times already, and that isn't working. That's not enough. And so I think the 50% would be a fair trade.
What are your thoughts on the DOJ investigation into our big four beef processors?
It's long overdue, and I hope they get something done. It's been a long process. It's proven, I hate to say things too abruptly, but they've proven it themselves, especially the South American one group. I'll just leave it with that. Yeah. It's basically run like the mafia down there, and they brought that right up here too, and it's the way that they are running things right now is pretty much the same way.
What are your thoughts on MCOOL, on mandatory country of origin labeling? Do you feel it would benefit our industry or be more of a detriment?
Oh, it is. It definitely would be a benefit. There's no way possible that people can't understand the concept of that. I mean, we want to sell our products labeled, and people would like to buy it labeled that way so they know. The health regulations on other countries are terrible. I mean, the foot and mouth in Brazil is coming up here, and if we ever had that come into this country, we got problems, but we'd have big problems with that. One of the veterinarians that was down there and understands that, I visited with him in 2 years ago, and he said, "You think we got problems now?" He said, "It would just devastate our industry." Just the health part of it would be a big factor. And, some people think it costs too much to get this done, and it won't. It absolutely is as simple as putting a brand on an animal or an ID number in and taking care of it and running it through and keeping those cattle in the separations as far as the marketing. They all have to be marketed at the same time in bigger groups, and just keeping it simple. I mean, don't make it so there's too much government regulation and tape, and the inspectors could be part of that inspecting. They've got them in the plants already. It's sad because there's too many things that happen in our industry that aren't taken care of when it needs to be taken care of on a timely and orderly manner.
With that being said, what are your thoughts on imports of cattle and beef into the United States?
Well, because of the health regulations, number one, they should meet our standards the same way that we have to meet them, okay? That's only fair trade, first of all. Fair for us and fair for them. They can meet those standards. Secretary Perdue was told by the president to stop the imports. And he didn't say stop all the imports. He said stop the beef imports that are non-trading partners, okay? I'm not saying Canada and Mexico should be stopped, and maybe they should be, at least if they're not going to be labeling them. That's something that we should consider, but not at this time. If we stopped cattle that are coming from Brazil and South Africa, and I mean, you can't believe the countries that cattle are coming from that we have no trade with whatsoever. They shouldn't be allowed to come, especially when our cattlemen suffer. When we needed to kill cattle the last 3 weeks here, and we're still bringing in these cattle from other countries. And our cattle are getting bigger, and as our cattle are getting bigger, they're docking them. Well, the packers don't mind it because they need to kill. They don't mind if it's a little larger animal. They tell us they do, and they dock us for it. But they need that amount of meat to go through the process anyway. So, I mean, there's a little bit of manipulation there with saying they can't handle those big carcasses, and then all they do is they utilize it themselves, and they get the benefit from it to start with.
There's currently a petition floating around for a beef checkoff referendum. What are your thoughts on that subject?
Since the whole conspire, I have done research and talked to hundreds of people about this. And I know that there's a lot of differences of opinions. And the truth of the matter is the beef checkoff is badly misrepresented and misused and misrepresented as far as people understanding what it's really doing, because it's not doing that. Those are some things that we have to get straightened out. We should not be taxing an animal 3 times, 4 times, and maybe even 5 times in its lifetime, paying that dollar checkoff or whatever it may be. Those checkoff dollars are supposed to be, or were set up for one time, and that shouldn't be manipulated by all these people. By doing it that way, it should be done once at slaughter time, and that should be enough. It's gotten to be ridiculously high. And the trouble is the checkoff, the way that it's handled right now, the administration fees on that, if you get into checking it, if you can ever find out the details, because there's no accountability and open book to show people what's really going on. But I've seen a set of books from 2018 where it was done, and boy, was that misrepresentation as far as how much they're putting into administration costs. It's crazy. It's
Right.
supposed to be research and promotion. And boy, some of the research and promotion that's being done is terrible. I mean, they're not this fake meat thing. They should be at least comparing in promotion and in research what the real meat has and what the fake meat has in it, because there's no comparison.
So you mentioned fake meat. Do you feel that that product is a threat to our industry?
Oh, absolutely. You know, people think, oh, that's a fad, it'll come and it'll go, it's done it before. I tell you what, the cattlemen of today better wake up, because they're taking a big share of it right now. And if you don't believe me, you check in and see what market share or how much increase this has happened. They're going out there and they're getting school programs, school lunch programs to buy fake meat. If they're getting those big contracts and we're not, we're losing ground. And the thing is, it is not healthy. If people understood what was in fake meat, the sodium, that red dye,
Yep.
California deemed that causing cancer. They can't even use it in California, of all liberal states. I mean, I can go down the list and tell you a number of things what's in there, and it is not healthy.
Consumers have been gouged at the meat counter here for the past few months, and obviously prices at the grocery stores have come down somewhat, but they have not returned to pre-COVID-19 levels. Do you think our industry is in danger of pricing ourselves out of a product?
You know, I think supply and demand will take care of itself. It always has. And if it does, if we produce too much, it'll go one way or the other. There's enough other protein sources out there, chicken and fish and pork out there. The truth of the matter is, though, right now we've seen a spike back in, I think it was in May, June. Look what that price was at. How high did that market get? Not for the rancher, but for the packer charging the consumer. And did they pay for it? Yes. Was there a threat with COVID? Yes, that was part of it. And they were taking it away. They were just cleaning the shelves out. But that's proof that they still would pay for it. People have to realize, how much will they pay for it? They could have bought other things, not maybe as readily with the conditions the way they were. But I truly believe that if we've got a great product, we just need to get out there and promote it like it needs to be promoted, because the checkoff is not doing the job that it needs to be doing, because too much of that money is being used for administration, especially with all the money that's being collected.
What do you see happening to the American cattle producer if some kind of changes aren't implemented to fix these lopsided cattle markets?
If we don't do something, the days of sitting back and saying, oh, it'll change, it'll get better. I can't tell you how many ranchers and feedlot operators I talk to on a regular basis, and yeah, I know, we should probably do something. And I've been one that since, the whole fire where I've gotten involved more and trying to encourage people to call their senators and representatives, governors, the Secretary of Ag, and whoever you need to call. We need to set up some sort of a network of people in each state that we can get that done with. I'm telling you, there are lobbyists out there that are connected, and there are organizations that are connected. And I'm not here to badmouth anybody, but they have to work with it. The National Cattlemen's Association, and I used to be a member, so I can say this too. I feel that we're being treated very unfairly. Of all the of 4 or 5 different situations in government in the last, the fake meat, the pricing factor, I could go down 4 or 5 other situations here that we wanted to change. Number one would be the MCOOL, and that was one that needed to be tremendously, looked at. The National Cattlemen's Association wants a national ID. That's a course of control that we as independent ranchers do not want. Is it handy? Sure, it's handy, but is it dangerous? You bet it's dangerous, because once they get control of everything, you Katie bar the door, because you will understand what control is then. And there's just a lot of things that were done, and none of those things were voted. Most of the cattle people wanted it one way, and the National Cattlemen's Association, they went after it in another way.
So you just mentioned the RFID initiative being brought forth and NCBA wanting to get that pushed through. You said it's handy, and obviously it is, but it's also dangerous. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, the dangerous side of it is all said and done. I'll just use an example, because I've seen some of the different criteria that were put on that. Mm-hmm. If I'm a rancher and I do not have that done, and I don't have something as far as detailed as what they want done with that, I can't even sell my cattle to a packing plant. I mean, if it's not detailed to their specs, totally. That's just one area. If you go in and you mark something, an individual animal, and that goes through the packing industry, and it's third-party verification, it comes back, they can go back to that through that third-party verification, and that person that produced it, if he's at fault, he could be blamed for it and fined. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, some of those things are uncontrollable, and it should not be that way. We live in an independent cattle industry. We are not monitored by every step that we take. Do we do a good job in the U.S.? Well, you bet we do. Do other countries? We do a lot better job. I'll just put it that way.
Do you think our industry is in danger of becoming vertically integrated?
I really do. I think that that's something that, if we're not careful of, we've seen so many different other industries, the chicken and the pork and everything, but it'll be a little tougher. But, when cattle people are out on the ranch, if they still have some equity in their land and stuff, that'll be different, because it's got to come from someplace and somebody has to raise it. It'll be a little tougher to do it with the cattle industry, but I tell you what, you start losing money and the banks start saying no, and believe me, I've seen a lot of it just in the last couple of years here, more than I ever care to see.
If you could sum it up into one sentence, what does the cattle industry need most today?
The main thing that I would like to say and see is that cattlemen have to get involved, and they have to be honest with themselves about not just, I believe in this organization, I believe in that organization, and they'll take care of it. That's not the answer. As an individual, we all have to look straight ahead and see what really is going to be mandated of us, or what we can do to make this industry better. And I think that if we don't get something done with more packers, more involvement in the rules and regulations that are to be set forth to the packers, to the cattlemen, to the importers, to all of those, and get them set so that it's fair playing ground for everybody.
Do you have any closing statements you'd like to make about our cattle markets or any issues facing our industry?
I guess I just hope that ranchers as a whole, cattle people as a whole, the big feedlots are connected to the packers, whether they believe it or not, and that's proof. But it's sad when they are, because you don't hear them screaming and yelling. If these smaller feedlots, cow-calf operators really want to make this thing happen, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have a voice, a louder voice, and get through government bureaucracy somehow. And I just hope that people will get involved and work together. These organizations as a whole, we're all looking for the same thing. They butt heads sometimes on some of these different things. Even like, Senator Thune came with this UMCA. He asked me what I thought should be in that. And I sent some notes to him one day, and to Ryan, his ag man. And as I sent that stuff to him, I said, but there has to be teeth in this agreement. Mm-hmm. Remember, we're not dealing with just the packer. We're dealing with packers that have had their way a long time. And if we don't do something with some teeth in it. He sent it back to me, and we know how it turned out, where they don't have the teeth in it. It's a good thought, and like I said, I hope that there was hope there, but with no teeth in it, they're not going to just voluntarily do it. We're going to have to realize that we're going to have rules and regulations, and I hope